following the very successful fourth test, where they were able to do soft water landings for both stages of the rocket, SpaceX made the decision to try to make the leap forward and do the return to launch site.
That leap forward came on Sunday, October 13th, when for the first time in history, a rocket booster was caught midair as it returned to the launch pad under its own power. The SpaceX launch tower, nicknamed Mechazilla, worked as planned, moving right on schedule to allow the hooks at the top of the booster to rest on the so-called chopsticks less than 7 minutes after liftoff. I'm Will Robinson-Smith, reporter with Spaceflight. Now, ahead of the launch of Flight 5 of Starship, we had the opportunity to speak with the Deputy Program Manager of NASA's Human Landing System Program Office, which is based at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville. The reason we wanted to talk with them is because a future version of the Starship's upper stage will be used as the lander that will take humans down to the surface of the moon for the first time since the end of the Apollo era.
We are very interested. We're interested in the performance of both the booster and the Starship. We learn a lot each time it happens.
This is Dr. Chojnacki. Before his current role within NASA's Human Landing System Program Office,
and liftoff of Artemis 1.
He had several roles working on NASA's Space Launch System rocket, another key piece of the Artemis architecture. He says unlike SLS, HLS was much more open to industry suggestions.
Having grown up and done some on SLS from the very initial stages of SLS was kind of a very traditional NASA program. It was NASA laid out a very strict set of requirements and dictated propellant inventory, dictated all the things to the various elements. They flowed down. They were cost plus programs where the aerospace companies would respond and we would work in a very traditional manner. Moving to HLS, we're doing a lot of moving parts at one time. Not only did we very much minimize the set of requirements, I don't remember how many requirements there are on SLS, but on SpaceX's contract right now for their initial landing, there are 27 system requirements, 27. And we kept it as loose as possible while going through and dictating all of the safety standards we'd want. We agreed to all the design and construction standards up front. We agreed to all of the things that they would do to ensure the safety of the human element up front. And then we let them go and run. So very different approaches, and there's pros and cons to both, but very different approaches. And I'm glad that I've had the experience on both so that I could see SpaceX's innovation and I could see that we're not dictating things when they may have better ideas. We haven't hemmed them in.
He says the other key difference between the HLS and the SLS programs is the contract structure that they've been operating within.
On the SLS, it's a cost plus type program in that they will do what we ask them to, and the charges will accumulate. For the HLS on the firm fixed price contract, we laid out some mandatory design reviews. You shall have a critical design review, you shall have a design certification review, and we are in charge of COFR. But other than that, we asked them, what's important to you? Where are your major milestones on development? And then they propose milestones back to us that those become payment milestones. And if they don't satisfy the criteria that they've laid out themselves, we don't pay them. So they're two completely different approaches. So it's fun to have been on both. And there's pros and cons. There's frustrations on both, I'm sure.
The next time that NASA and SpaceX will have a big review of Starship is coming up in summer 2025 during the Critical Design Review.
And all of that will culminate in a design certification review where NASA will receive all the information from the verifications and say, of the 27 requirements, you have satisfied all of them in this manner. We accept this. This design is certified to do what you say it's going to do.
One of those requirements that SpaceX suggested was the ship-to-ship propellant transfer demonstration. Chojnacki says the campaign for that prop transfer is set to begin around March 2025, with the test being completed over the summer.
That would be the first time that's demonstrated on this scale, and so that is a big building block. And once you've done that, you really cracked open the opportunity to move massive amounts of payload and cargo outside of the Earth sphere. So if you can have a Starship with propellant aggregation, that's going to be the next step to doing an uncrewed demonstration.
He says the cadence NASA is looking for is launching on a bi-weekly basis, at first just using the two towers in Boca Chica, and eventually looping in the tower at Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
Operations where you're launching maybe once a week out of each pad, so that each pad has a 2-week turnaround, but you're launching about on a weekly basis to go up, fill the depot, come back and reuse those boosters and tankers to get that operation. That's the kind of cadence that would be great. We don't really know what the boil off is. Some of the early flight experiments that we're looking for is that data to understand what that curve would look like.
While the mechanics of Starship are coming together, SpaceX and NASA are also working on the interior of the rocket, where future astronauts will live and work. Chojnacki says the astronaut office has been closely involved in the design and feedback process.
With the astronauts and the human element, there are some things that are very hard to require, but the crew has some experience, some real world experience of, if you did this, it would be helpful. And the crew goes to SpaceX and holds what they call office hours. So once a month, they go to Hawthorne and they just sit and they say, these are some of the things we've been concerned about. These are some of the things we'd like to see. And it's soft influence. It's being able to say, if you're trading between this being on the left-hand side and this being on the right-hand side, we very much like the right-hand side for the various reasons of this. And so they're able to communicate that. So having that crew interaction time with them has been really important.
One of the integrated tests done recently involved mockups of Axiom Space's spacesuits that will be used on the surface of the moon. They worked to see how they interfaced with a mockup of the Starship interior and the elevator system. The final version of these suits, developed with high-end fashion company Prada, were unveiled at the International Astronautical Congress on October 17.
We've been able to work both with Axiom, the crew, and SpaceX in that regards to further that. We also have looked at the crew cabin, the mock-up, the visuals, some of the sleeping quarters, the lavatory, and everything else that is being built as mock-ups at Boca Chica. It's sitting at Boca Chica right now. The next time we'll really have a chance to look at it as a whole is we are getting a design update from SpaceX to review in the month of November, and then we'll be able to look at it at the critical design review next year.
In addition to having oversight over how Starship ties into the Artemis program, NASA has also been lending its expertise to SpaceX to help improve the designs of the rocket. Some examples included offering some updates to the vehicle's cryovalves and other internal cryogenic cooling components.
Where we have been doing some in-house testing on the behalf of SpaceX is on their MMOD thermal tiles for in space. So not the heat shield for the reentry, not the hot side, but being able to have the MMOD tile and the reflective for keeping the cryos cold. We brought a couple of those tiles in and did some testing. SpaceX was very happy with the capability both at Glenn Research Center and Marshall's test capability. And so we've expanded that relationship and being able to do some testing for them.
Following the October 13th launch of Starship, SpaceX is cruising towards the launch of Flight 6. In a pre-launch statement from the Federal Aviation Administration, the agency said that while approving the license authorization for Flight 5, it has also cleared the way for Flight 6. The FAA determined that changes requested by SpaceX for Flight 6 are within the scope of what has been previously analyzed, the FAA said in a statement. Any modifications requested by SpaceX to the approved Flight 6 scope of operations may require further FAA evaluation. September 2026 is the operating goal for the Artemis 3 mission, and before then, there will also be an uncrewed landing demonstration of the Starship vehicle on the moon. Chojnacki thinks the rocket will be ready in time.
I think that is definitively the date we're working towards. We don't have any known roadblocks. We do have some first-time things that have to be demonstrated, and we have a plan in place to go demonstrate those. But I mean, there are first-time things. Sometimes there are things that bite you, and so we are working through those. But there are no known roadblocks to achieving that. I think the day that the Starship lands on the moon, that we have something of this size coming in and landing vertically, crew exiting, taking the elevator down to the surface and exploring the surface. I think that for me is what I'm looking forward to.
Reporting from Starbase for Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith.